Just
The bell that broke the news of American independence through the streets of Portsmouth, Virginia. Just one of the many tales from Trinity Episcopal Church, a cornerstone from our past in this edition of History Through the Lens. Welcome to this edition of History Through the Lens. I'm Tom Shadd, and we are commemorating the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution and the founding of America. And you know, what brought us here to Trinity Episcopal Church in Portsmouth, it's very close to our TV station. And we were thinking, you know, there's so much history in Portsmouth, so much history in Hampton Roads, so close by, and we thought, let's just go to this church and see what we find. And, well, of course, we did know quite a bit about Trinity Episcopal, but there's a lot that happened here, and we learned more after we talked to our guest, Father Grant Stokes. He is the rector here at Trinity Episcopal, and you are a wealth of knowledge of history here. So just tell me, just start at the beginning. We're going back to 1762. At the founding, right before the American Revolution. You have a graveyard out here with a lot of very interesting figures who are buried here. The sanctuary is just chock with history. What do you think when you walk in here?
Oh, I feel the prayers of generations of Christians here. I feel the struggles of two wars that were very emotional for our parish. First being the Revolution and then the Civil War. And those emotions are shot through our history, especially with things like our window to commemorate the death of Confederate officers and just the struggles of loyalty that happened with like Braidfoot, who was our second rector, who was licensed by the Church of England to be here, but as soon as the Revolution started, he left to join the U.S. Army as a chaplain. Well, not U.S. Army yet, but yes, he left to join the Revolution. And we had no rector for that period because he was fighting the war.
So the story really on those two wars, I just thought of something, the fact that you have these dueling loyalties competing against each other, the Union and the Confederacy, the British and the Patriots.
Right.
You know, what did that do to this church community at that time?
Interestingly, it appears that most people were patriots here. There were very few loyalists, and if they were here, they were quiet. When we won the war at Yorktown, they were so happy that they rang the bell until it broke. So it's not just the Liberty Bell that broke, but Trinity's bell broke as well. And it's a wonderful story that, again, these competing loyalties and you're British, most people were born there. Braidfoot was born in the British Isles. Yeah. They break the bell, they're so happy, and then because it's broken, they have to fix it, so they send it to England to get it repaired. Apparently, the English were fine doing that, even though that rang out our victory at Yorktown.
Maybe there was always a desire to try to understand that we are definitely related so closely.
Right.
American and British, I should say, culture.
Right. And to think that you fought this very bloody war, but we're going to fix the bell that rang out your victory. Maybe they didn't tell them the history, I don't know. Maybe they didn't tell them why it broke. There's another wonderful, maybe apocryphal story of Bishop Brown, who's a bishop, I'm not sure what era, but it's in the recent past because there are parishioners here who remember him. But he was in England, and they would say, where are you from? Where's your diocese? And he would say, Southern Virginia. Oh, well, we don't know where that is, or, tell us more about it. And he says, well, in my diocese, there's a little town called Yorktown, and I'm sure you know about the story there. So he was always happy to tell them that in his diocese.
Little dig.
Yeah, a little dig at the British. But he loved to tell that when he was over in England.
Started in 1762.
Right.
So tell us about, it was the Church of England at that time, prior to the American Revolution. And did this church have any real influence in terms of the revolution itself in Portsmouth, or was it just pretty much a center of the community at that time?
Center of the community, the Church of England had existed here in the colony for 154 years before this church was founded. At the time, the General Assembly decided who had a parish church. And in our records, there was some issue in the Elizabeth River Parish, which was the largest parish here, was across the river. We're not sure what was going on, but they broke that parish up into three. So the three churches that came out of the Elizabeth River Parish were St. Bride's, which no longer exists. There is a St. Bride's church now, but it's not the same. They just took the name later. It was close to the North Carolina line. And then St. Paul's over in Norfolk came out of it, which has the cannonball.
We know where that came from,
yeah,
don't we?
we know where that came
the
from.
burning of Norfolk on January 1 of 1776.
In fact, people come here often looking for the cannonball, and I'm like, oh, you're at the wrong church. But I thought I might just cement one up on the wall to, just to satisfy the tourists. But so they broke that parish up and then started this one. So it was founded by or started by the General Assembly in Williamsburg in 1761. But it wasn't until 1762 that the building was complete and services began.
And this is not the original building.
It is on the foundations of the original building. The original building, according to our records, was very poorly built. In fact, there's a newspaper account that says we shouldn't have paid for it. We should have required the contractor to fix it, and they were worried it would fall down on the people here worshiping. It lasted at least, though, until 1821, and at that point was basically pulled down to the foundations and rebuilt, enlarged a bit, and then in 1829 the bell tower was added.
What did the church itself, the Church of England, or just any church, mean in a community like Portsmouth in the 18th century during the time of the Revolution?
Well, it represented the government at the time because there was no separation of church and state. We were the established church. I'm sure there was some distrust of this church because after the war, we basically became a dormant church. There were no services happening here after the war until 1821. We get our vestry reconstituted, and at the time it was a legal thing to do that. And so they reconstitute the vestry, they start growing, they add the new building or the wing over here. And they basically started over. They had to give that time of no worship here so that people forgot about the loyalties to England.
Wow.
Now, interestingly, even though after the war it was seen as an English church, we had a rector, and we still had the glebe until the glebe is a church farm that supports the church. And we had the glebe until Thomas Jefferson was president, and they confiscated the glebes from all the churches, the government did. And at that point...
Why'd they do that? That's interesting.
It was seen as the established church. It was English land, I suppose, and so they confiscated those from the church. And at that point, for income, we started renting pews instead of having the farm to raise tobacco.
I'm going to stop you right there because That's the end of our first segment already. We have to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to go outside this church and take a little walk through a very historic area that you can see yourself when you walk up Court Street in Portsmouth after this. Welcome back. This is our next segment of History Through the Lens, and we decided to put our coats on and walk outside. Being it's December, it's kind of a cold day, and we're in the graveyard of the church, the Trinity Episcopal Church here in Portsmouth on Court Street with Father Grant Stokes. And we were really just marveling over the history here. And let's just take a little walk and look at some of the notable people who are buried here.
Sure. Would you like to see the plaque where the patriots are listed?
I would love that.
Let's do that.
Let's do it. I even see names in the walls too.
Yeah, the wall went over some graves. The original wall, this was rebuilt in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
The original wall would have covered probably back over past the Commodore to the next lot back there. It's where the rectory was.
Okay.
But these are the Revolutionary War patriots buried here. So this is our most famous grave, and we'll walk to that. But the Commodore
James Barron,
was in both wars, Revolution and the War of 1812.
So just so much here. So this is the Commodore's grave.
This is the Commodore's grave, and there's this cool thing that happens about every fall, maybe around September. Somebody leaves a cigar and a bottle of Madeira on this grave.
Ooh.
Yeah, we
Madeira.
have cameras now to find out who it is, but this year we didn't catch them. But they leave the Madeira and a cigar for the the Commodore.
Something tells me that he liked Madeira and cigars.
Well, that was the drink then. Madeira
Yeah.
was the drink. So
That's fascinating. And so this was engraved, but you can see how weathered it is.
right, all right. These stones are granite, and they do not do well. But the shipwrights that were here in the shipyard, a lot of them were from New England, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, other places that had shipbuilding facilities, and they would send for these slate stones, and there is perfect today is the day they were put in. They're wonderful, but the other stones do not stand up as well.
That's fascinating. Other notable graves going back to the American Revolution, would you say, around here?
There's one right over here.
Let's have a look.
And our earliest grave is right here. These two. So
1763.
that's the second one. This is the first one. 1761, and it's starting to 1763. I'm sorry.
Alex Jaycott? So
Merchant in Norfolk.
yeah, he was a merchant.
So this guy, Bernard Magnine, I believe it is how you pronounce it.
Oh,
He was from France, and he loved it. So he stayed, but he was being honored in a parade, and right in this area, they were going to present him with a medal. And the story is that someone pulled a sword, and the sun gleamed off the sword and spooked the horse. The horse reared up.
oh no.
He fell off and hit his head and died a few days later.
Oh my.
So he's buried, I'm told, about in the spot where he died or where he had his fatal injury.
So from France, now was he the aide to Lafayette?
He was the aide to Lafayette, yeah. And he loved Portsmouth so much, he had his family come over and they lived here.
Here we go.
Here we go, yeah. So
Here's
this
one.
guy was in the Revolutionary War. This is Braidfoot. Now,
Oh, the chaplain.
The chaplain. Now, our records have that he was buried at the Glebe, which is Port Norfolk.
Mm-hmm.
But this stone was installed here to commemorate him. We don't think his body's here.
Oh, okay.
We think the body was actually buried out in Port Norfolk, and then that graveyard is lost now.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. In fact, the first 3 rectors are out there.
And so you chose to put this here because of his service to Trinity.
Right, exactly, and to mark that the Revolutionary, that he is buried on our ground, we just don't have it anymore because of the confiscation of the glebes.
From Thomas Jefferson, right?
From Thomas Jefferson, exactly.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating story. And then you see some of these. Now, time was not kind to a lot of these.
Not at all, yeah.
It's difficult to read some of these, but this is one that you know of, and it's not really a person buried here as much as a marker.
A marker, exactly.
When you walk through here, do you get a sense of peace?
I do, yeah. Especially in the summer, it's shady and cool, and people walk through, and a lot of people just stop and sit on the benches and have lunch.
As a matter of fact, many people who work at our TV station have said that's exactly what they do, and they suggested that I come up here.
Yeah, right.
Because I've walked past it dozens of times, and then when you walk through it, you do get a sense of America's past.
And Portsmouth's past. I mean,
Yeah.
we are America's past here. It's amazing the stories that come out of these few acres of land that have been inhabited, and people have worshipped here since 1762. And it is the story of America, right here in Portsmouth.
I think with that we can end this segment, because we'll do one more. We'll take you to a very special place in Trinity Episcopal Church in our next segment of History Through the Lens. Welcome back to this special edition of History Through the Lens. I'm taking some steep steps here to the bell tower at Trinity Episcopal Church on Court Street, and following me is Father Grant Stokes, who's the rector here, and this, of course, is a very special place. We already sat in the sanctuary and talked about the history there, and also went through the graveyard and looked at some really interesting pieces of history that are just right below our feet here in the city of Portsmouth. And now we come to the bell tower.
Right.
So I guess we continue up.
Continue up. Interesting, the next level, you'll see a lot of HVAC equipment. But before that was installed, they had youth Sunday school up there on the next floor.
Up here at the top of the bell tower, it is a steep climb, but well worth it. And wow, a lot of history here too.
Exactly.
This is where the bell rang at the end of the American Revolution. It was Yorktown in 1781, when you got the word out to all the people of Portsmouth that the Patriots had won.
Right. Yeah, this is part of the bell, I would say.
Now, this is not the exact bell.
Well, the original bell's metal is in this bell.
Oh, okay.
So the old tower used to be on top, about where that cross is, or the steeple, and that's where the bell would have hung. It was recast, so once they broke it in their jubilation, they sent it back to England to be fixed, which is amazing. And then
Of all places,
right? But I assume there were no foundries here. Since then, it's been recast several times, and the latest time was in 1893 in Baltimore. It was recast there, and I'm sure it's been enlarged several times as well.
So when we hear the tone of this bell, and thank goodness it's not 1 o'clock right now.
Right. Well, I turned that part off.
If we hear the tone of this bell, would it have sound similar to 1781?
Yes. Yes. In fact, you want to hear it?
Sure.
Just.
Wow.
All of Portsmouth knows now that we're up here.
And it's a beautiful sound,
It's
actually.
a gorgeous sound, yeah.
It
it's
really
great.
is.
We do a lot of history tours here, and I can hear it from my house. I know when the tours are happening because they come in and ring
It's a
the
certain
bell.
frequency, right?
Right,
That just kind of
exactly. Yeah.
cuts through the air.
It does, yeah.
And then can imagine, you just gave a very soft ring on that, and I can imagine
Yeah,
after Yorktown what that was like, and the
Right.
bell cracked.
I can't imagine ringing it that hard, but maybe it's better metal now. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. But the significance, let's say, of a bell tower in a church in those days, I mean, that was the signal.
That was the signal, yeah. Everything from victories of war to danger, fires, anything, they would ring the bell to let people know. Of course, call people to worship as well.
Yeah, definitely. Get people out of bed.
Yeah, right. That would have been an easy alarm to sleep through, I think. if you're in your house. So.
I don't know, man. That thing
Up here, it's very loud.
That thing woke me up.
Yeah.
What a fascinating edition of History Through the Lens. I want to thank you, Father Stokes, for joining me today and letting us into Trinity Episcopal Church and showing us this marvelous building and the history that goes along with it. And I want to remind all of you that we make history every day.